Hello, this is Kerry with the November 2023 Vedic Astrology forecast. This is a very long forecast, so settle in. First, we have a summary from each of the 9 planets. This is for the Sun. October was dramatic for the luminaries, the Sun and Moon. Each one moved through an eclipse, which can feel mysterious, unsettling, and like a quick pass through a dark tunnel. As we emerge on the other side of the tunnel, the Sun recovers quickly, moving from Libra, which challenges the strong self-regard the Sun evokes, into Scorpio, where getting the proper amount of me time could happen. The Sun moves through Scorpio from November 16th through December 16th. Balance getting that me time with a good dose of introspection while you process what you have learned in the last 3 years. The Moon. Re-emerging after the lunar eclipse on October 28th, the Moon curls in on herself, waning until the new moon in Libra on November 13th. You find yourself standing in a doorway, looking out towards an unfamiliar landscape, not prepared to leave, but not comfortable any longer in that space. It's okay to stand there in the threshold for a short while. The Moon then grows, becoming full in the sign of Taurus on November 27th, making both of November's big lunar events happen in the sign of Venus. Time to take that step. You know who you are and what you want. Feed what you want to grow, and gently wander to meet those who are also searching for a higher love. Mars. Mars represents power, fire, and fuel, the human important elements that help us maintain our food, clothes, and shelter requirements. For all of 2023, Mars has been in quiet boss mode, making sure our work got done amidst a rather unstable stretch of time. After toning it down through most of the year, Mars steps into strength as he moves into Scorpio, his own territory, from November 15th through December 27th, fully taking charge of the holiday season. Mars has done a ton of work on himself this year, and as he steps into Scorpio, it's like Clark Kent becoming Superman. That's a cue for all of us to find the hero within and save what needs saving. Mercury. Mercury is quite a traveler and represents the exchanges that happen quickly and naturally between humans, just like you reading or listening to this now. Mercury's skillful, flexible, and intelligent vibes touch 3 different signs this month. Up to November 6th, Mercury is in his own sign of Virgo, strong but busy. From November 6th through the 26th, Mercury moves through Libra, which could feel like getting back to business, restoring lost social connections, and setting up new deals. From November 26th through January 31st, Mercury will move back and forth through Sagittarius, which looks fun, dynamic, educational, and growth-oriented. Jupiter. Currently, retrograde Jupiter is in his Aries transit that stretches from April of 2023 through April of 2024. With Jupiter representing expansion, growth, and wisdom, these things could remain sluggish through Jupiter's retrograde phase, which ends on December 30th, just in time for 2024. With Rahu moving out of Jupiter's space, we may feel like we are regaining access to the good and helpful things in life. We may feel a bit shy to put our faith back on the line, but we can grow into that positivity as we notice ourselves grounding and stabilizing. In the coming year, we may feel a resurgence of desire for education, spiritual pursuits, and general expansion of knowledge and wisdom. May it be so. Venus. For most of November, Venus, the planet of relational intelligence and creative connection, will move through Virgo. Despite this discomfort, we have the chance this month to do a juicy analysis of what the cost to benefit ratio is on relationships, businesses, creative endeavors, and health maintenance programs. By month's end, we should have our data organized and see more clearly what we're ready to invest in and with whom. It may help to handle deeply emotional issues with a cut and dry approach in order to keep things moving. Saying no is not the same thing as being unkind. Saturn. Saturn shows up in all the difficult things: illness, age, death, responsibility, boundaries. Since January of 2020, slow-moving Saturn has occupied his own signs, which may have shown up as some type of continuous challenge in the past few years. Saturn won't change signs until May of 2025, so for now, feel his pressure, guidance, and practicality in the signs he affects during this time: Aquarius, Aries, Leo, and Scorpio. When you know it's time to pump the brakes, that's Saturn talking to you. On November 4th, retrograde Saturn will resume direct motion, which could normalize his effects going forward, increasing the pressure, accountability, responsibility, and integrity that our strict but experienced grandparent planet demands. Rahu. This is it, the final click into place of the nodal axis when we see the Shadow King, the Eclipser, the brains of the operation, who represents the deep desires harbored by humanity, the north node of the moon, Rahu, change signs to Pisces, bringing a new chapter of rapid development to some department of our lives. On November 29th, the nodal axis backs into its new stall, moving Rahu to Pisces through May of 2025. This brings attention to the water signs, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. Do you know what you want deep down? Do you? Relaxing into the flow could help guide you toward a positive expression of your deepest desires. Ketu. As the counterpart to Rahu, Ketu also changes signs on November 29th, moving out of Venus's air sign Libra and into Mercury's earth sign Virgo through May of 2025. Ketu is a gut instinct guy, not one for overthinking or scheming. For the next 1.5 years, the sign of Virgo will draw us into our intuition, guiding us on to what to pursue and what to abandon. Virgo is an energetic, hardworking sign, and Ketu tends toward liberation techniques. Finding a happy recipe that allows the intuition of Ketu to mix with the data analysis of Virgo could be quite productive and surprisingly fun. For an in-depth analysis of specific planetary placements, please continue to listen to the full planetary forecast. Venus transits Virgo from November 2nd through the 29th. Through the latter half of October, Venus, the planet representing love, unity, and relationships, was making her way through the sunny sign of Leo, making an exchange of signs with the Sun, who is moving through Venus's air sign of Libra from mid-October to mid-November. This could have created an environment wherein the study of relationship dynamics was front and center. Themes of personal responsibility within group dynamics could have strongly played. We may feel a shift in this regard for November, with both Sun and Venus moving on. Venus moves through Virgo from November 2nd through November 29th, leaving us with the work of analyzing the cost of business, relationships, entertainment, and health issues. After a month of dramatic events in October, tied in with an eclipse pairing, The big news for November is the shifting of the eclipse axis that we describe as the two ever-opposite shadow planets, Rahu and Ketu. Last month, we described the difference between the mean node and the true node calculation. The mean nodes move on October 30th, and the true nodes move on November 29th, leaving the entire month of November open for signals of what this shift may generate going forward. With Ketu moving backwards from Libra to Virgo, there will be an inevitable meeting with Venus toward the end of November at the border between Virgo and Libra. With Virgo being a dynamic, earthy environment where we explore themes of effort, practice, health, and harvesting returns, we will see the meeting of two very different energies with Venus and Ketu passing one another. It could be time for a change in how we manage our interactions. Venus, while best friends with Mercury, the ruler of Virgo, is considered debilitated while in Virgo. Of all the debilitation states, this may be the most puzzling. We could explain it by noticing that Mercury's signs tend to be places of strong intellectual expression, and then understanding that Venus may feel stifled in her natural, passionate, emotional tendencies in such a heady environment. Ketu's magical powers express in transformational work, material obstruction, intuitive understanding, and meditational grounding. The union of Venus and Ketu can sometimes be awkward due to the mixing of fiery and watery energies that seem at odds. How can we use this in a positive way? This is actually a great combination for mixing and analyzing emotional and intellectual data points. It's tricky when a gut feeling is at odds with evidence. Communication and self-improvement may be difficult this month, especially if we keep trying what is obviously not landing or producing results. Explore different avenues of connection with your important people as you analyze what healthy relationship really means this month. While this may seem like some heavy news, the light news is that by moving out of Leo, Venus also moves away from receiving the hard aspects of Rahu, Jupiter, and Saturn. It could be that the heavy lifting of relationship work manifested in October when Venus moved through Leo, and November is about remodeling, organizing, and reassessing. Saturn is direct in Aquarius starting November 4th. Let's check in with our boundary patrol, dear Saturn, Shanidev, who moves slowly, works tirelessly, watches closely, and remembers what we're here to learn. It takes 28 to 30 years for Saturn to travel through all the signs of the zodiac as he makes one lap around the sun. This puts him in each sign for about 2.5 years. His current station is in his own sign of Aquarius, where he shares rulership with shadowy Rahu. Aquarius is an air sign, the penultimate sign of the zodiac, where we have the opportunity to reap what we have sown and to calculate what is left to want in this world. Aquarius is the sign of the masses, all of the souls that are embodied on this earth. Both Saturn and Rahu are associated with the common people that inhabit every land. From January of 2020 through January of 2023, Saturn moved through his Earth sign of Capricorn, making a memorable conjunction with Jupiter in December of 2020. In January 2023, Saturn moved to Aquarius, where he slowly walks until March 30th, 2025. Each year, Saturn becomes retrograde, moving in reverse motion for some time. Saturn's retrograde of 2023 began in mid-June and concludes on November 4th, when Saturn stations into direct motion at 7 degrees Aquarius in Dhanishta Nakshatra. When Saturn goes retrograde for roughly 4.5 months, As with any planet retrograde, we may see unpredictable results. Saturn's cold, slow, and deliberate action could speed up some during retrograde, which could be good in some ways and unstable in others. With Saturn resuming his deliberate forward pace, it could feel like we're getting back to that long track we had been walking after some months of a side trek that could have been adventurous yet challenging. With Rahu moving out of Aries, this will also take Saturn's gaze off of Rahu, which could begin to feel like we have a chance to make predictable choices and get ourselves back into a routine that supports our long-term goals. November is a great time to regroup after a hectic summer season based on Saturn's fast and loose movements. Try to slow down and gather your resources, thoughts, and plans onto a new vision board that includes both long and short-term goals. Settling debts and paying what you owe could feel particularly invigorating as Saturn begins to push forward again. Mercury transits Scorpio November 6th through the 26th. Vigorous Mercury leads the charge of the inner planets this autumn, moving away from the dramatic nodal axis and forward into the depths of Scorpio for a quick jaunt from November 6th through November 26th. There are a few implications of what this could mean for the messenger, who moves fast, speaks faster, and thinks the fastest. The keywords that come up with analyzing the possibilities of this transit are ease, freedom, and letting go. Scorpio is a water sign, implying emotional depth, but is ironically ruled by two fiery planets, Mars and Ketu. Scorpio is an alchemical environment where the potential for magical transformations or tragic stagnation is all possible. With Mercury's power lying in rapid learning and willing transaction, we could get a lot done with this transit in November. As Saturn resumes direct motion and Mercury moves into Scorpio, we see again that Saturn's aspects are not only affecting Aries and Leo, but also Scorpio. The inner planets will begin to move through this space, starting with Mercury and followed by Mars and the Sun as we move toward the winter solstice. The dramatic events of October could have given us a clue about what needs attention, shifting, and work. As Mercury and Mars, two excellent workers, move through Scorpio, gaining the determined pressure of Saturn, we may find ourselves pushed into deep inner work that is crucial for supporting our trajectory. If you are moving forward and meeting insurmountable resistance, it could be time to recalibrate and change course to a more inviting avenue. Use the intellectual acuity of Mercury side by side with the deep intuitive messaging that comes through Scorpio to plot your next move. There could be some difficult decisions after some in-depth accounting. New moon in Libra, Vishak Nakshatra, on November 13th. November's dark moon comes on November 13th as the moon slides in to join the sun at 27 degrees Libra in the nakshatra of Vishak, inviting us to initiate a new chapter after what could have been a long, hard finish to the last one. The signs of Libra and Aries have been front and center due to the eclipse axis moving through those signs from April of 2022 until now. As the nodes make their final slip into the new station of Pisces and Virgo, we may feel a bit raw, empty, or lost in whatever departments Aries and Libra represent in one's personal horoscope. Like entering into an empty wedding hall that has been vacated but not yet cleaned, we may find ourselves wandering lost, picking up torn decorations that have played their part in a celebration that already feels like a dream. In this raw and empty space that is reflected in this November 13th new moon moment, allow yourself to not know exactly how things are going to proceed in the next couple of months. Instead, gather the remaining materials that can be used going forward. Celebrate that we are moving through a threshold, honoring what you leave behind and protecting what you are carrying forward. Leading up to this new moon, as the moon is waning, Saturn is resuming direct motion, and Mercury and Venus shift to new places. Don't expect too much to blossom and bloom. Allow yourself to retreat, to find silence, and to remember what peace feels like. Visions of what's to come may begin to draw themselves upon your mind. Watch without controlling, and enjoy the new rhythm that is emerging. Mars transits Scorpio from November 15th through December 27th. Shortly after the new moon moment, the trio that participated, Moon, Sun, and Mars, will all move out of Libra and into watery Scorpio, joining Mercury, who's already come up with a detailed to-do list and some suggestions about where to dig next. By November 16th, the wedding hall in Libra becomes very quiet as the focus shifts towards Scorpio. The nakshatra Vishak, where the new moon gathering occurred in Libra, stretches between Libra and Scorpio, inviting us to bridge into the deep, dark environment of Scorpio, in shocking contrast to the light, clean, and airy environment of Libra. This is also a bridge that joins Venus and Mars territories. Always an exciting traverse. Mars is associated with fire, power, and protection, which trickles down into many of life's departments. When harnessed and directed, Mars's power can be applied to numerous useful and resourceful projects. As co-ruler of Scorpio, Mars is considered strong in this transit, so this chunk of time between November 15th and December 27th could be leveraged to get some major work done. What happens if we don't responsibly harness this fiery power? Unbridled firepower can be quite destructive. With Saturn's structured and careful aspect coming into Scorpio, this gives us the cue to take responsibility for our fire, which can come out as pioneering leadership on good days and unfortunate rage on bad days. Scorpio's transformative energy could be useful as we collectively change channels with the Rahu-Ketu axis shift. The Venus-Mars theme has been strong since October of 2020, when Rahu entered Venus's sign of Taurus and Ketu entered Mars's sign of Scorpio. When the nodes shifted in April of 2022, they were again doing Mars and Venus business, with Rahu in Mars's Aries and Ketu in Venus's Libra. The next station of the nodes will be in the signs of Jupiter and Mercury, giving Venus and Mars a chance to regain their footing and get back to normal as much as possible. Mars in Scorpio through late December invites inner work, purging, mining, poetry, strategy, and psychic surgery. It should be noted also that with Mars in Scorpio and Saturn in Aquarius for about 6 weeks, we have a unique situation that won't come up again for another 30 years. Both Saturn and Mars are in their own signs, and they are both the signs that are co-ruled by the nodal axis. Aquarius is co-lorded by Saturn and Rahu, and Scorpio is co-lorded by Mars and Ketu. When they are each placed in these signs, they also mutually aspect each other, creating a very powerful connection called Sambandha. The last occurrence like this was from November 9th, 1993 through December 12th, 1993. It may be good to crawl back in time and examine that phase in your own life to see what may be possible during this occurrence. Again, November 9th, 1993 through December 12th, 1993. Both Saturn and Mars are heavy hitters, and in this case, hitting one another. What has been stuck and ready to move could go, but it will take a serious effort. When to push and when to wait will be crucial in moving things forward during this time. Brute force does move things, but the potential for crashing and smashing comes with it. Add finesse and discernment to your actions at this time. The Sun transits Scorpio from November 16th through December 16th. Mars's leader, the Sun, follows closely behind him into Scorpio, putting Mars in a state of deep combustion, meaning that from our earthly perspective, Mars is occupying the same sky space as the Sun, making Mars invisible to the eye and blending his indications with that of the Sun. That adds up to some hot energy plunging from the sky into the swamp. Welcome to the deep dive that Scorpio invites. The Sun loves to lead us into self-work here, where we swim into the discomfort that is often a barrier to the next phase of freedom, self-direction, and expression of personal power. Mars remains in combustion through year's end, but the portion between November 13th to the 23rd will be most intense, with the faster moving Sun passing by Mars on the zodiac track. This could feel like a transformative time, after which Sun and Mercury push forward into Sagittarius and Mars stays behind, reconsidering calling up Venus again, who he will suddenly encounter in the eastern morning sky before dawn. Mercury transits Sagittarius from November 26th through January 31st. The final week of November will see a small plate of planetary shifts that pushes us through the holiday season. Dripping some muddy water from the wings on his feet, Mercury emerges from Scorpio and flies into Sagittarius, preparing for a longer stay there due to a retrograde period from December 13th through January 1st. As we settle into our new nodal axis positions, we shift our focus from the 3-year Venus-Mars concentration to 1.5 years of exploring Jupiter-Mercury themes. The nodes traveling through Venus-Mars territory during the past 3 years brought passion, intensity, creativity, relationship work, and building from a new platform. The upcoming 1.5 years may feel like a pivot, guided by the great teacher and helper Jupiter and executed by his lively, skillful student Mercury. To celebrate this new phase, Mercury will spend over 2 months in Jupiter's fiery and fervent sign of Sagittarius. Time to pick up those buried educational materials again and get back to the books. Write your content, dive into studies, and revive learning-related projects. Jupiter continues his retrograde phase in Aries through the end of December. Mercury moving into Sagittarius creates a channel to Jupiter as Jupiter's current aspects flow into all of the fire signs, including Sagittarius. This is a great time to reconnect to teachers, wellness service providers, spiritual practices, and travel plans. Reignite your desire for expansion and growth. Full moon in Taurus, Rohini, on November 27th. Just after Mercury darts into Sagittarius, the moon pushes the envelope of light by becoming full at 11 degrees Taurus in the wee hours of November 27th. This could feel like waking up in a new day, and with some of the smoke cleared away, we may have a better handle on how we create our new chapter. After a lunar eclipse in late October, and with the pending nodal axis change, our hearts and minds are ready for a serious channel change. For months, it could have been clear that we're moving on, but unclear as to which direction to move. This full moon in Rohini Nakshatra is relatively unaspected by negative energy. Combust Mars, in his own sign in Scorpio, is dovetailing with the sun's light, pushing the inner light of intuition to join the outer shine of the sun. Mental and emotional fluctuations could be strong during this time. Use your tools to remain in balance so that the strong light of the moon showing your path ahead will be a helpful guide. The nodal axis true calculation moves to Pisces and Virgo on November 28th. By this time, followers of Jyotish will know that we are moving into a new phase with the nodal axis changing signs. On November 28th, the true node calculation of the eclipse axis will shift, putting Rahu into Pisces and Ketu into Virgo through May of 2025. The nodal axis brings with it many different interpretations, even within the system of Vedic astrology. Different lineages and traditions handle the interpretations differently. For example, the signs of debilitation and exaltation vary. Whether or not the nodes aspect and how they aspect varies. And even whether to use true node or mean node calculation becomes a point of debate. This astrologer looks at both mean node and true node, depending on the application. With the nodal axis seen mythologically as originally one being that was severed into two parts, we have Rahu depicted as a bodiless head and Ketu depicted as a headless body. In English, we are using the word aspect for the Sanskrit word drishti, which means to look or view. Being all eyes, Rahu aspects in a similar way to Jupiter. Both of these planets give drishti to the other signs of the same element as where they are placed. This can also be seen as aspecting to the 120-degree angles from the planet's placement. In addition, like most of the other planets, they will aspect the planets and signs sitting opposite to them, 180 degrees. This means that Rahu will aspect and affect all of the water signs as he rafts through Pisces. Just a note. This is a description of what we call graha drishti, which is planets aspecting. There is also the concept of rashi drishti, which creates an environment of constant and permanent aspects between the signs. Ketu, having no eyes, does not aspect, says some tradition. Ketu, being like Rahu, aspects the same way, says other traditions. The power of the glance, the raising of the eyebrow to intimidate, the steadiness of gaze, is perhaps not Ketu's greatest power. The strong, obedient body is Ketu's power, holding still enough to give and receive vibrational input, standing and fighting when needed, and granting the peace of meditation or sleep when at rest. The confinement and liberation duality falls strongly into Ketu's department. The sign and house where Ketu transits at any time tends to be going under a notable transformation. This means that the sign of Virgo and the house that Virgo occupies in personal horoscopes will be the environment in which we are applying the lessons of Ketu in the next 1.5 years. Ketu likes to act through intuition and body-related practices. Virgo is a practical sign related to improvement through learning and practice. This could be an effective time to add physical practices to your health routine. Join a gym, go to yoga, commit to martial arts, set goals around fitness, and then take it all one step further, using the physical practices to anchor and ground yourself as you attempt to pull yourself together, body, mind, and soul. Using the aspect scheme of your choice, you could say that for Ketu, the big impact happens in Virgo. If you believe Ketu is like Rahu, keep your eyes on all of the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. If you think Ketu can only flow through Rashi Drishti, keep your eyes on all of the dual signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Mr. Shiny Eyes, Rahu, will be winking and nudging, obviously in Pisces, where he will be bouncing for the next 1.5 years. The other water element signs, Cancer and Scorpio, will also be receiving the engaging glance of Rahu, as well as Virgo, where Ketu sits. The departments of life that are covered by water signs in personal charts could begin to feel the rock and roll of Rahu's influence as 2023 becomes 2024. Rahu and Ketu's effects can feel unstable, unpredictable, and surprising. Just get ready to get ready. Rahu's energy can create desire for new things, hunger for more, and surprising innovation in what already exists. On the opposite side of the spectrum, Ketu's impact can feel like sudden disinterest that leads to a sideways shift. Rahu can cause attraction, while Ketu can cause transformation. Both are dramatic, but also common. Trends change under Rahu's eyes, who has his attention on the desires of the masses. Traditions are preserved under Ketu's seat. The headless one relies on deep roots for information. Venus transits Libra from November 29th through December 24th. The end of November sees the meeting of Venus and Ketu at the border zone between Mercury's earth sign Virgo and Venus's air sign Libra. As true node Ketu moves into Virgo, Venus moves through the obstructive Ketu from her debilitation status in Virgo to the supportive environment of Libra, her own air sign. This does seem like a description of a challenging hurdle, which could come to pass toward the end of the month. It could feel like surmounting an obstacle that has stood before you for some time, barring your road to vitality, happiness, or creative process. It's time to dig deep and reach high all at once. Get over it. As December dawns, we may truly feel as if we are in a new paradigm. After a few years of turmoil and instability on the relationship front, we could suddenly realize that we are cleared for takeoff. When Venus moves to Libra, after the nodal axis has moved, we find Venus opposite Jupiter, which could manifest as the integration of deep lessons that allow us to move forward with a new sense of wisdom and purpose. Venus isn't just about relationships, but about all connections, including how we show up in community and participate in society. As our diverse world rumbles with all its people struggling to protect their rights to simply be alive and thrive, examine how you are showing up with your family, friends, neighbors, colleagues, caregivers, teachers, strangers, and enemies. Here is my prayer as we move through the holiday season, precariously balancing between war and peace. Let peace begin with me. Let me see clearly how I am contributing to this world. Let me grow into my gifts and create a nurturing environment within and without. Let me move forward, letting go and picking up with gratitude. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'll be back in December with more.